Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Two staff of the Indian High Commission in Islamabad, while out on official work in the Indian mission's car, were abducted by Pakistani agencies early morning Monday. They were later released by the police on June 15th after the Foreign Office informed the authorities that they had diplomatic immunity. Following the incident, India had in fact summoned the chargé d'affaires of Pakistan on June 16th and lodged a strong protest with him. In a media statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said that the Indian officials were subjected to interrogation, torture and physical assault, resulting in grievous injuries to them, and were released only after strong intervention by the High Commission of India in Islamabad and the MEA in Delhi. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze the abduction incident and the broader issue of Indo-Pak ties. Joining me on the program today are Prabhu Dayal, former ambassador, Tilak Devasher, former Special Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, and Major General Bruce Katoch, retired Director, India Foundation. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Ambassador, I'd like to begin the program with you first. Let's hear your thoughts and understanding of the entire situation of the abduction of the two Indian High Commission officials in Islamabad.
Well, Frank, you have correctly mentioned that these two officials were picked up in the morning on their way to the office, and they were subjected to torture. They were physically beaten up, and when the Indian High Commission took up the matter, they were released. There were serious injury marks found on their bodies, although these were not considered life-threatening. Now, such incidents have been happening routinely. Unless you have served in Pakistan like I have, or like Mr. Deveshar has, or unless you have dealt with the Pakistanis like General Katoch has, you will not realize the sort of harassment, intimidation, and difficulties which the Pakistani establishment subjects Indian diplomats and officials in Pakistan to. Now, I have served there, and I can tell you that we were routinely intimidated. My Consul General at that time was Mr. Parth Sharkey. His car was attacked and smashed, and he managed to escape without any serious injuries. But the point is that their intention was very malified. Now, during the coronavirus pandemic, we all had to practice social distancing. I would like to coin a new expression, political distancing. We have to use political distancing where Pakistan is concerned for two reasons. Firstly, their High Commission here is nothing but a den of spies. They use it to spy on the Indian establishment. They use it for anti-India activities. They use it for fomenting all sorts of terrorist-related activities also. On the other hand, they subject our diplomats and officials to all sorts of harassment, and I have personally undergone all that. So, in my humble view, we should re-evaluate the whole situation. We have to resort to political distancing, and I would be very candid in saying that my own view is we should not have diplomatic relations with Pakistan. As it is, at the moment, the diplomatic relationship has been downgraded. It is at the level of chargé d'affaires, but we must rethink the whole thing. Are we really in need of a diplomatic relationship with a country which openly calls us enemies? When I was posted in Pakistan, I was always told, "Ye to dushman desh se, dushman mulk se." We are regarded as enemies, we are harassed, and the entire relationship is used by Pakistan in a very mischievous manner. So, I repeat what I had said, we need to practice political distancing where Pakistan is concerned. We get nothing out of this relationship. It is not necessary for us to have a full-fledged diplomatic relationship or even a downgraded relationship. My own personal view, which I would like to state very categorically, is that, of course, because we have a BJP government, if the diplomatic relationship is totally broken off, it will be interpreted as an anti-Muslim move, which is complete nonsense. We have to look at national interest, and our national interests really require that this country, which wages terrorist activities against us ceaselessly and which harms us in every manner and which intimidates and harasses our diplomats, which uses its embassy for anti-India purposes, We
Sure.
do not need to have this diplomatic relationship at all. Political distancing is what we must now do.
Okay. At a time of social distancing, political distancing is the need of the hour, is what the ambassador is propagating on the program right now. Mr. Devasher, what are your views on this entire issue, first and foremost, and the larger picture of Indo-Pak ties? Because there's another debate and another issue that is being raised by several experts, like the ambassador just has, or whether or not we should, in fact, have any kind of a relationship with a state like Pakistan.
See, first the facts. Uh, Pakistan normally, whenever their people are picked up in Delhi, were caught actually in the act of spying and sent back. Pakistan reacts within 24 hours, and there's a quid pro quo, and two of our people, or three, or equal number of people from our mission in Islamabad or Karachi at the time when it was there, are picked up, eaten up, and then declared PNG. In this case, I was personally surprised that even though those two Pakistani staffers had been caught spying and sent out at the end of last month, Pakistan did not react. And I was wondering why they haven't reacted so far. I think they were waiting for an opportunity, perhaps because of social distancing or people being careful. The mission staff was not outside in Islamabad in the same manner as it would have been normally. So there were these two people, CISF people who had gone, I think, to the airport, on the way to the airport. They were the targets of opportunity. And just to prove a point, just to show that this is not a tit for tat thing, they framed the ridiculous charge of hit and run and carrying false currency. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. All of us who have been in Islamabad and in the diplomatic mission know that our people, diplomats as well as drivers, are extremely careful when we are driving, just precisely to avoid any such kind of an incident that can take place. And the normal standard operating procedure is that in case you have an accident, certainly don't try and run, which Pakistan tried to make out, that they tried to run and the people picked them up and they were beaten. Some stories say the crowd beat them up, and there is no way any person from the Indian mission would try and run if at all an incident like this took place. And as far as carrying fake currency is concerned, I mean, come on, this is absolutely ridiculous. So that's the incident. This is a totally fabricated incident, ham-handed, but that is typical of the ISI. They just can't think through things. They are not a sophisticated agency. So that's one. Coming to the larger picture, I agree with what the ambassador said. I'm not so sure that we can break off diplomatic relations or close down the mission. But we certainly don't need to have 110 people in Islamabad or allow Pakistan to have 110 people in Delhi. We need to downgrade the mission drastically, perhaps have just a second secretary as a post office who can convey messages up and down, and similarly make sure that they don't have more than 5 people in Delhi. That is the way that you can have some line of communication open, but make sure that our people are not sitting ducks in Islamabad and they do not have an opportunity to carry out espionage activity as far as Delhi is concerned. So drastically scale down and downgrade the relationship, and I think we must use this particular incident, opportunity that has been presented to us to do this kind of a thing. And one other thing that the point that I like to make, these two people, the staffers who were beaten up, and they were, I would very much want that they should undergo a strict check for COVID-19. I hope they have not been deliberately infected, and if possible, they should be isolated for 14 days. I would not put it past Pakistan to have given them some food or given them some kind of water or something like that, which will infect these two poor boys. So that we must be very careful and protect their life. We must also have a proper psychological evaluation as well as a physical evaluation of what actually transpired when they were in custody for 10 hours. That's a long, long time for anybody to be under hostile custody.
Okay, this is something that I will take up with you later on in the program as well. What is the standard operating procedure when someone is abducted like this and brought back to the High Commission? What is it that the High Commission really does with them? I'll come back to that in just a bit. But before that, General, so, as far as this particular issue is concerned, downgrade ties is what one panelist is suggesting. Don't have any ties at all is what the other panelist is suggesting. Your thoughts on all of this, and, how do we also ensure that our staff is safe in Pakistan?
Now, just let me put my thoughts in a slightly different context. Very correctly said, we have got 110 staffers there. Pakistan has got an equal number here. Now, that is the quid pro quo which is always carried out. Now, what happened was on the 1st of June, I think on the 31st of May, we apprehended three of the people, one driver and two people from the embassy, and they were exchanging court documents. They were caught red-handed. Now, from that moment onward, it was but obvious that at some point of time, two of our people will be caught somehow. As Mr. Deveshwar very correctly pointed out, they got an opportunity and they did it. So this was not something which was unexpected. It was expected and we knew it's going to happen. But I want to take your mind back to a larger point. By the end of May and the 1st of June, when we expelled two of their diplomatic people, you see, we did it at a time when we were India was also facing tension on our other border. Now, why did we do it? I think it was conveying a message to the world and to Pakistan that we are quite capable of taking on both the fronts simultaneously. This is just a thought, but I think these are also diplomatic messages that we know we have our problems. We are fighting COVID. We have got problems elsewhere, but still we are going to expel you. So that was one message which I thought was conveyed. I think there is another point which we need to consider as far as the quid pro quo is concerned. Now, when we look at the embassy, our own embassy staff at Islamabad, the entire area in which our people can move is confined to Islamabad, which is something like Chanakyapuri, as big as Chanakyapuri, or for the people who are living in Chandigarh, something like 3 to 4 sectors of Chandigarh. That's all. Now, they're confined to that area. However, the staffers of Pakistan who are living here, they have a much wider area to roam. They are living in Chanakyapuri, they are in Vasant Vihar, they are in AIMS, and for their Jummah prayers, they go to the Jama Masjid. Now, keeping a tag of all these people has become a very difficult task. And as Mr. Deveshwar very correctly pointed out, these people are heavily involved into spying duties. I think the ambassador also gave out that point. Now, let us say if this chap has gone into the Jama Masjid, how do you track him there? And he meets his people there. So I think we also, when we are going for a quid pro quo, we need to see that they remain confined to Chanakyapuri and they don't go beyond. One more point, about the currency. I think it is absurd that the Pakistanis put 10,000 Pakistani rupees and that to fake currency. I think their economy must be in a very, very poor shape. If that is the level, they're trying to put 10,000 rupees. Pakistani rupees is worthless. It is something like toilet paper. And they have put that into the pockets of these two people, trying to show that they are carrying out these activities. So there is certainly a requirement of a quid pro quo, and I think we need to be much more assertive. Diplomatic relations, I presume, will carry on. We may downgrade it. The problem of downgrading it is even further is when you have to upgrade it at some future point of time, that may become a problem. But even if we don't downgrade, I think we must confine them. Every single Pakistani staffer, they must be confined to Chanakyapuri and not beyond. They should be told to move in.
Okay, these are some ideas that the general is giving in as well, as far as what needs to be done as far as the Pakistani High Commission in Delhi is concerned. Taking the discussion forward now, Ambassador, you spoke about your time in Pakistan and how it was a difficult time as well, and to deal with issues like this. What is the best way that we can deal with situations like this going forward is what I would like to ask you.
Well, Frank, I have given you my very candid view. The way to go forward is to just break off relationships totally with this terrorist country. We tell the world that Pakistan is waging terrorist activities against us and we give them all sorts of proofs. But the questions which I was often asked by other foreign officers were, why do you have a relationship with such a country at all? It's going to harm you. Now, it is correct. It is difficult to break off the relationship for various other reasons. I mentioned one of them, that we currently have a BJP government, and if the BJP government were to break off diplomatic relations with Pakistan, then there will be a hullabaloo that this is an anti-Muslim step, which it is not. It is just a step against a terrorist country. No. The way to go forward, given all our limitations, as the general said, confine their movements, it is very difficult. Simply because if Islamabad is a small city, they can say they move around in Islamabad and Rawalpindi, but Delhi is a big city and there is ample scope for Pakistani diplomats, as was mentioned, by going through to mosques and to bazaars. It's very difficult to restrict their movement, and when their movements are not restricted, they will carry out anti-India activities. You know, their national days used to be the hub for anti-India Kashmiri activists, and the Pakistanis openly use these occasions to foment all kinds of anti-India activities. The point is, this is a country with which we have tried every single method of having a good normal relationship. We have gone out of our way to use every method available to cultivate cooperative and cordial relations. Has all this worked? Unfortunately not. Pakistan has not changed its ways. It will not change its ways. And of course, what is going to happen is that it will continue the same methods, it will fine tune them, it will revise them, but their objective will be the same as it has been, to harm India. Pakistan does not hesitate in saying that India is an enemy country and that when we are posted there, that these are diplomats of an enemy country. If that is their attitude, how can we work out a good and cordial relationship? And if we can't work towards a cordial relationship, then what is the good of having a diplomatic relationship at all? Political distancing, diplomatic distancing, economic distancing, these are absolutely necessary. Of course, it may be difficult, but then where there is a will, there is a way. I can tell you quite frankly, having served there, that if I visited anybody, if somebody invited me over for dinner, then the ISI would go to their houses and say, "Why did he come?" They would harass them till those people would somehow politely and quietly tell us, "Please don't visit us." If we went to a shop to do any purchasing, the shopkeeper was harassed. Why did he come here? What did you talk? Etc. etc. The idea was to completely ostracize us, to make us limited in our scope of movements and activities.
Mhm.
On the other hand, as everybody here mentioned, the Pakistanis freely move around, and even if they were to move around within Delhi itself, they have ample scope of doing mischief. Do we want that? Do we want to give the Pakistanis any opportunity to carry out anti-India activities? My view is no. It's a categorical no. And the only way you can prevent them from having any access to mischievous routes is by throwing them out completely. Even if you have one secretary, second secretary level, what's the big deal? You can communicate between the foreign offices through emails, through video conferencing. What is the need to have any Pakistani diplomat or official posted here in India at all? I can tell you, I was posted in Karachi. We used to have a very big consulate in Karachi. It was wound up because the Pakistanis attacked us very badly after the Babri mosque riots, and then they created havoc, and there was no option but to close down the consulate. Now, with Pakistan, we have to rethink. We have to think out of the box. We have to think whether we need this relationship at all, because this relationship is targeted at harming India. Its only objective is to harm India, and even if you retain one diplomatic official and plus a little bit of staff, those people will only carry out anti-India activities. The best is just throw them out. We don't even need token diplomatic representation in each other's countries. We don't need to have any relationship with Pakistan until they can mend their ways. They should stop terrorism. They should stop shelling at our borders. They should stop carrying out anti-India activities in other capitals. Look at what they did in London. You know, our embassy was attacked by Pakistani agents. So, unless we learn to take a tough decision, I think Pakistan will continue to have its ways. These incidents will routinely happen. Our diplomats
Sure.
and officials will be subjected to harassment and will be picked up, abducted, tortured, and so on and so forth.
Okay, points taken. All right, let me take the points that you're making forward with Mr. Devashen. Mr. Devashen, of course, act tough. This is the time to act tough, is what the ambassador is suggesting. Does Pakistan have more to lose than India if diplomatic ties are broken? That's one aspect. The second one being, of course, something that I told you that I'd take up with you later on. What is the SOP really when someone is taken away or picked up by Pakistani officials in Islamabad? What is it that we do, and what is it that we follow once they come back?
Yeah, as far as diplomatic relations is concerned, I don't think so. We need to break them off. I think just downgrade them drastically would serve the purpose. Let's see how it goes. And if required, you can always break it off at a later stage. But at the immediate stage, we need to downgrade it very drastically. Point number one. You talked about the SOPs. I think, whenever, in my experience, whenever somebody has been picked up, our staffers have been picked up, they're invariably picked up in the morning, and you will get them back only in the evening at a police station. And immediate task is, before anything else, is their physical and mental health, because they have been so brutalized always, that you need to have a proper medical examination. And unfortunately, the doctors in the vicinity are all warned not to say anything of their medical condition. That's why we have our own doctor in the High Commission who is able to give a complete certification of their physical condition and the mental condition. Then you have a system of debriefing which can last over a period of a day or two, to what exactly happened, how they were picked up, what were the questions that they were asked, and what documents they were forced to sign, and what they were forced, because all this is radiographed, and the Pakistani will try and make our officers or individuals admit that yes, they were spying, yes, they have given money to terrorists, they are involved in terrorist activities. Nobody buys it, nobody believes it, but they somehow feel that this is evidence, and then they will run this on their channels to show that India was mein mulawwaz hai. So this is the normal standard operating procedure, that the physical and mental health of the person is concerned, and then normally you're given 24 hours when these people are asked to, they're declared PNG and asked to leave, so then all the preparations, etc. go on. But coming back to the point, that we are vulnerable. We are vulnerable because Islamabad itself is a very two-street town. It's very easy to follow a CD27 number plate anywhere in Islamabad. And you're not allowed to travel anywhere. Earlier you were, now you are not. In Delhi, you try following somebody from Vasant Vihar to Chanakyapuri and you lose him within 2 minutes. It's just not possible. It's just not physically possible, irrespective of how good the highway will be. So, you are opening yourself up to a totally not a level playing field. And that's why this has to be prevented. That's why this has to be stopped. And the best way to do it is to physically remove them from the mission, because they're serving no purpose. You're serving no purpose by having such a large mission there. They are vulnerable, and you're harming yourself by allowing them to have such a large mission as far as allowing the Pakistani mission in Delhi is concerned. So I think we need to take a tough call. I agree with what the ambassador said. You need to take a tough, strong call and make sure that you narrow the opportunities that Pakistan can have to harm.
Okay, General, as far as we are concerned, the safety of our staff and our officials in Islamabad is of utmost importance to us. So keeping that in mind and considering what the Pakistanis might do to them, are our options really limited in trying to ensure that we curtail the movement or try to bring in such kind of, measures here in Delhi?
Oh, absolutely. You see, the question is diplomatic relations are always bound by quid pro quo. So we will give to you what you give to us. So, and that is a very simple rule, and it works very well. That is why when, let us say there is an embassy staffer who has an accident and he kills 5 or 6 people in a road accident, you cannot charge sheet him. He has to be sent back as a persona non grata. And there is a very valid reason to that. Now, in this particular case, as Mr. Devesh very correctly pointed out, earlier our staff members could go to Rawalpindi. Now they cannot. They are confined to Islamabad. I think it is important to ensure that all staffers of Pakistan are confined to Islamabad, and one of the ways that could be ensured is to reduce that strength. If you don't want to, completely close down the embassy, well, then reduce the strength to 20 to 30 people. And we can trace them, and we ensure that they don't move out of Chanakyapuri. Now, Chanakyapuri is something which we can monitor. And I think that in itself will send a very strong message. I think on a larger point of the Indo-Pak relationship, I have always advocated what Mr. Dayal said, we have to declare Pakistan as a terrorist state. We cannot wait for the United States or somebody else to do it. We are the affected party, so do it. In my view, the relationship between these two countries, everybody thinks that the default condition is peace and stability. My point is no. The default condition ever since 1947 has been hostility. And because we are trying to change the default position into something which is artificial, we keep having problems. Now, if we understand that the default condition between both these countries, between Pakistan and India, is hostility because of Pakistan's ideological moorings, which are diametrically opposed to anything which India will do. Pakistan is what India is not. That is what the default condition is. Now, that is not going to change. And if that is not going to change, then let us live with it. To live with it, we have to accept the fact that Pakistan is a terror state, that the default condition is hostility, and let us learn to live with that. If we learn to live with that, perhaps we will have less firing on the borders. But because we are trying to go in for an artificial peace, I think the reverse is happening. We are continuing with a higher state of conflict. So, in a sense, actually, what Mr. Deveshwar sir and Mr. Dyal said, I really don't think there is any difference. We are only talking about degrees as to what degree we can go to, and that is a matter of debate. But I think the general thrust of what we are trying to say is the same. Business cannot be what some think tanks start to think on a goody-goody terms. We can be brothers and all that nonsense. It doesn't work that way. And I don't think it is going to work that way in the future also.
Okay. All right. Time to get quick closing comments from all my guests. I've got 2 minutes left on the program. So in 30 seconds each, the best way forward, starting first with you, Ambassador.
You know, Frank, let me tell you a little joke. A statue was discovered during excavations in Pakistan. It was an ancient statue, but nobody understood whose statue it was or which period it was from. Then the ISI took it and then came back in the evening and said, this is King so-and-so from this period, he ruled from this year to this year. So they said, oh, you must have done a lot of research. They said, no, he confessed. The Pakistani extortion of confessions, the sort of torture which they subject to, can even make a statue confess. That was the joke. And frankly speaking, we don't have to subject our officials, our diplomats, to that sort of a risk. We should not have diplomatic relations with Pakistan, as I said, right through.
Okay, thank you for that anecdote and that joke. Mr. Deveshwar.
No, I agree. I think diplomatic relations or reducing the mission is just one option that we have. There are so many other options which we have not exercised so far in increasing the cost to Pakistan of behaving like a normal neighbor. There are many, many options, and maybe you could do several debates on the various kind of options. Like one thing, the economic, they have broken off trade. Today, Pakistan's pharmaceutical industry is crying because almost 70% of their pharmaceuticals depend on imports from India. They have stopped the trade, and now drugs are becoming scarce in Pakistan. They are not getting life-saving drugs because the imports have stopped already. So there are many ways of making Pakistan pay the cost.
Okay, all right. And General, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Yes, actually over the last 6 years, and I'm being very honest about it, it is specifically, I'm saying the last 6 years, there has been a concerted move to put Pakistan in its place. I wish we had done this right from 47 onwards. We would not be facing this problem. It is for the first time that I'm seeing political, diplomatic, and economic measures being applied against this rogue state, along with military measures. I think we need to continue with this process. What Mr. Dyal says, break relations, well, that's a fair one. I've also advocated that. I really don't know how far we can go with that. But if we have to do it, let us declare this as a terrorist state, then break off diplomatic relations and continue with the pressure. I think at some point of time, this country will break.
Okay, all right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. What's coming out of this discussion is that business with Pakistan can't go on as usual. We need to re-evaluate the whole situation, and the time to act tough is now, is what the panelists are suggesting. Whether we can completely call off ties, of course, is debatable at this point in time, but we certainly can downgrade the ties, is what they are suggesting. And we also need to restrict the movement of Pakistani officials in Delhi like they have done with our officials in Islamabad. With that, it's a wrap. See you again next time.